have you with us today as we focus on the whole issue of youth. One of our foundation's new campaign platforms is supporting youth. So this podcast is very, very appropriate, and we have some great guests with us today.
Yeah, so let's start by welcoming our guests. We have Janine Jones, who is supervisor in the Continued Care and Support for Youth, or CCSY program, and Kendall Dunlop, amazing, inspiring young woman who we'll hear more about momentarily.
So as a youth in care, I have been in the society for over a decade. I recently started with the advocacy work after I wrote a children's story called Sally and Her Suitcase. And that really kickstarted my ability to kind of provide unique perspectives that youth in care have that may not be realized by people outside of the society. So I started on the board in December, and I've served at a couple different board meetings. I'm still trying to get my hang of things, but we're holding some roundtables to get some youth opinions to really understand where the issues are that are affecting youth.
I had the opportunity to join WeCast in 2015, actually as a CCSY worker. And then I did a few other things after being in that temporary contract for a year. And in 2017, I joined the management team as a supervisor of family well-being. And I was thrilled in 2018 when I got the opportunity to come back to my roots and supervise the CCSY program, as it's really where my passion is.
Mm-hmm. So talk to us about the CCSY program. What is it about? And tell us more about the youth that we support through the program.
So the program supports youth ages 18 to 21 who are aging out of care. But most importantly, we're supporting them with their transition into their adulthood. We service youth that were previously involved via extended society care, which previously was known as Crown Wards. They may have been involved prior to 18 through a voluntary youth service agreement or also customary care agreement. This isn't a unique position in terms of just CAS locally. This is a provincially wide support that's offered to all youth aging out of care. And the youths have the opportunity to choose if they want to be involved. So it's a voluntary program that they sign on for. They're provided with emotional support as well as financial support too. Prior to the pandemic, we supported youth 18 to 21 years old. That does remain in place right now, although there is talk of a redesigned program, and what that's going to look like, we're waiting to hear. But in the meantime, March 2020, when the pandemic hit, the ministry put in a directive in place that no youth would age out of CCSY. So they're continuing to be involved and receive the same level of support. So we currently have youth that are like 23 right now. So it's been a blessing in disguise that they continue to receive that support. Right now we have almost 200 CCSY youth that are involved in the program. And the program aims to guide and support our youth with a wide variety of their personal life goals. We really try to highlight in terms of, their physical and emotional well-being, acquiring basic management life skills, developing a social network that includes connections to caring adults in the community, as well as cultural connections. We provide teachings one-on-one with the worker, as well as facilitating life skills groups here at the agency. And we really, I guess it's important to highlight that these are youth that are living independently. They're not living in foster care. So when you look at independently, that could be very different. They may be returning to live with a former caregiver, their parents. They may be living in a room for rent situation, student housing. They may be experiencing housing insecurity and kind of couch surfing. We provide them with a monthly stipend that assists them in meeting their basic needs, their housing needs, and we help them learn to budget with that. And so in summary, the program is really intended to help our youth achieve their goals into adulthood and help them be successful with that transition out of care.
That's great, thank you. And Kendall, we've been celebrating a lot of really important milestones for you and watching you develop into such an independent young woman. But you certainly faced many challenges growing up. Can you talk a bit about those challenges and other challenges that you've seen other youth in care, CCSY youth facing?
Yeah, so I lived in multiple group homes and had a lot of group home sisters that I met throughout my journey that had been in care a lot longer than I had. So there were a lot of struggles that I not only myself faced, but watched my friends and quite honestly family go through.
Right.
So some of those things included security, and that was security in their lives, in their home, in financially. Security is kind of one of the biggest challenges that I think most of us face because, you know, when you're born into a family where you have that continued support moving forward, there's this sense of security that if you fail in the real world, there you have a cushion. You have somewhere to go home to, somewhere to be safe. Whereas for youth in care, when you turn 21, 22, and you make those mistakes and you fall, there's nowhere for you to land. So it's security is honestly the biggest struggle that most of us face. And then financially, that was also one of the biggest struggles that I think we face is dealing with finances. But that through the foundation and through the society, I've been able to find a lot of support in terms of finances and those, you know, big things that normally a kid would not have to worry about, like driving your car when the brake lines go out and that's $800 out of your savings. You know, it impacts us more because it is only our money, you know, so it's coming out of our pockets. And the fact that sometimes the society is there to help, like that's a huge support. And then for me personally, one of my biggest challenges was my self-consciousness, was knowing that this was my story. And also in terms of financial, I needed braces growing up. And as small as that sounds, it really sucked going throughout high school. And I had braces, and constantly I was being told it was a cosmetic issue that did not need to be solved, but it very much so affected my confidence and my ability to share my story and be the person that I am. And now that you can see, I have beautiful teeth. I went through all of that. I'm much more confident telling my story and being here and speaking about it. And it's such a small thing that I haven't spoken about much, but financially it was never something I could even dream about until I was, you know, a full-grown adult. I did not imagine myself having the confidence that I have now with my teeth after my braces. So that was one of the biggest challenges for me personally, and then security.
Right.
So what stigmas do you feel you or other peers face as a youth who has grown up in care and is now involved with CCSY?
Yeah, so there's, I think, a lot of stigma surrounding former youth in care. I think very often, to people's detriment, our story is used against us as something to hold us back, as something that makes us less than. A lot of the time, I think that is how it is viewed, that we are not as responsible, not as capable because of the journey that we've been through, whereas it should be the complete opposite. Like, we are some of the most resilient people in our society, and these kids and youth in care have been through more than majority of the other members of our society, and they've been through a very different journey, learning to be independent. So it is something that, a huge stigma that we face when trying to find housing, when trying to find jobs, our intents, our relationships, all of those are affected by this judgment from our story, which quite honestly, we don't have much control over. You know, you're placed in this situation and you have so much control over the decisions that you make, but at the end of the day, the journey part of it and being in care will always be with you. And like I said, very often it's seen as something that makes you less than, rather than it's used more so as a ball and chain to hold you back, rather than this huge mountain that you have climbed and achieved. You know, like we have made it through this, we have made it out of this, and we are stronger because of it. And yes, so that is one of the biggest stigmas, I think.
And you talked about resilience and overcoming those challenges. We've already alluded to you as a success story for many youth, and an inspiring and a role model. this is your opportunity to just brag to everyone about your successes. Like, talk about those milestones that you've achieved that you want to share with others.
Yeah, so I was at a place in my life when I was about 15 where I did not think I was going anywhere, and I think that's a huge reality that a lot of youth in care accept. Very often when you're treated like a kid who's going to make bad choices, it is much easier to make bad choices. You know, so I was at a place in which I did not believe in myself anymore, but lucky enough I had a village of people who constantly reminded me what I was capable of, and I graduated high school with honors, and then I decided to take a year off of school before getting my job at the Y and working, and then 30 days before I was supposed to start university, I got kinship care of an amazing little girl, sorry, and it was one of the biggest struggles that I had been through, because when you're dealing with yourself, it's one thing, you know, these decisions are for you, and there's another little human that is at the root of all of these decisions. It's it's a lot harder to fail when you have to look in that face at the end of the day. So she was a huge part of what really motivated me to be better than what I was destined for. So I started my concurrent program at the university, and I also worked full-time, and I'm now about to enter my 4th year. Every semester so far I have achieved academic distinctions, and I'm in love with my program and the work that I get to do in our community as an educator. So yeah.
So you get emotional when you talk about being a kinship parent. Can you tell us a little bit more about that young person in your life?
Yeah, so I had 3 brothers growing up, and it was amazing, but I wished my whole life for a sister. My mom tells a story of me under the table with our female family dog, telling her that she was the only sister I would ever have. And then actually when I was 16, I was blessed with an amazing little sister whose name is Phoenix, and she is an amazing little spicy firecracker who is my motivation, and yeah, she's amazing.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we turn to Janine, and I know you won't have any problem answering this question, but what have been some of your proudest moments serving in this role?
There's a lot of them.
I knew you wouldn't have any problem.
I'm very proud of the work that we do in CCSY, and I'm very proud of the youth that we have the honor and privilege to service. They're an amazing group, and as you can see, they certainly inspire me. To start, you know, I'm beyond proud of the CCSY team. It's an amazing group of workers who show up with a dedication to supporting, you know, some of the most vulnerable youth in our community who have experienced, you know, significant trauma and face, as you can hear from hearing Kendall, you know, hardships and challenges that, you know, I certainly didn't have to face. And so we recognize, you know, the important role that we have to help support them with their transition into their adulthood. The team brings a commitment to advocating for our youth in terms of having equitable supports in the community with that transition to adulthood. You know, it's not typical that a youth at 18 has to live independently, and, you know, with a monthly stipend that, you know, is on a limited budget. And so trying to, you know, navigate the community for supports in that area. We're having those hard conversations with community partners as well as within our own organization in terms of what does equity look like to help support our youth. And through having those hard conversations, you know, we're seeing so much progress, and we're seeing so much necessary change that needs to happen and continue to happen for our youth. We've, you know, been doing a lot of advocating for them in an effort, you know, to ensure that, you know, we're getting kind of that community support and rallying behind them. And so that's by sharing their stories and their willingness to share their stories. You know, donors have been supporting us being able to help support our youth in very unique ways. And so I think that's, you know, as you touched on, Mike, you know, our new Windsor-Essex Children's Foundation campaign launch. really highlights the importance of our youth being a driving force in that campaign. And so I'm very proud and feel that, the CCSY's team continuous willingness to share about the challenges our youth face was really heard throughout, the foundation and our organization, and was highlighted in that campaign. And will only continue to grow the support that we can provide for our youth. We've been very mindful of ensuring that our groups represent our LGBTQS plus youth, as well as our Black, African, Caribbean, Canadian youth, our Indigenous and Muslim youth, and ensuring that, supports are provided that are culturally responsive and diverse. As well as, supports for mental health, education, and employment. We've really grown in that area too, from bursaries, job programs. So I think it's, from when I came in 2018, and just in 4 short years, I've seen so much growth, and I know that, it gives me the driving force to keep going, so that it continues to improve.
A common theme that we've had throughout all of the podcasts is children's aid societies can't do this work alone, that we require our partners to come together, and you've just spoke about that. Is there anything that you would specifically ask right now of our community to step forward to help youth? Are there concrete ways that our community, organizations, businesses could support our youth?
I have a lot of asks.
You're very good
We
at
knew
it.
you would.
The accounting department would confirm I have a lot of asks. So here at the agency, we have a CCSY youth pantry. We've been able to keep it pretty well stocked the past 2 years throughout the Miracle Drive. But there's always a continuous need, honestly, to continue to replenish it. Those good items that our youth like, that are quick, easy meals, that are, snack foods on the go, that are cereal, honestly, the things that I enjoyed as well, are hot commodities and go fast. As well as, the need to provide a gift card with that too, because it's a non-perishable food pantry. So providing them with a food card too, so that they can go get the fresh meat, the milk, the bread. And that really helps our youth when they're living on such a limited budget, and an unexpected bill comes out, their roommate moves out and they have added expenses. So, for them to be able to, save $100 this month by accessing the pantry can go such a long and meaningful way. So if you're a local organization and you're looking to run a food drive and you want to donate to, our pantry, we are certainly welcome to and happy to accept, those non-perishable items and grocery gift cards too. So we also have some organizations that have really taken the lead on the past few years and done some what have turned out to be annual campaigns for our youth. Fortis Group being one of them, in terms of providing our CCSY youth with coats during the winter that also come with a package for personal hygiene items. The Windsor Transportation Club for 3 years in a row has done a drive within their community, and last year they provided us with $7,100 in gift cards that we're able to hand out to our youth for those for grocery gift cards. And so things like that, if you're a group, an organization, and you're wanting to do something impactful and meaningful, give me a call. Give Mike Ratina a call. Certainly happy to, help partner and talk it out. If you have an idea or you're looking for us to, just kind of what is the need? We benefit so much by partnering with our community. And I can tell you, our youth, when they get those deliveries and donations, they feel validated that somebody that they don't even know took the time, the thought, and effort to care and recognize and want to help to support them. So just unique ways like that go beyond measurable.
And even our scholarship program, we actively fundraise for our scholarship program and completion bursaries, and that goes a long way to help offset the cost of education for our youth, and another way the community can give to us so that we can support our youth.
Now, our youth face many challenges, and I think the pandemic has even made that more significant. And some of those challenges are mental health, addictions, homelessness, and some of these youth, or a lot of these youth, come with a history of trauma. So, and all of a sudden they're living independently at 18, aging out of care, with not a real big support system, or if any support system, much at all. So Kendall, what would your advice be to those youth?
Wow.
It's a loaded question.
It is a very loaded question. So it's intimidating, it's scary, it's the reality. The easy path is making those choices that allow you to go into that life that you're destined for. It's not easy to come out of it, and mistakes are made throughout the journey. Like, I did not get here today by being perfect. Like, I did not always make the right choices. I disappointed a lot of people. But something that actually my grandfather told me when I was like 12 years old that helped me kind of cope with everything I was going through was that like your parents, your grandparents, whoever it may be, they made their choices in their life. And you are the only person in your life that gets to make choices to end up in a different place. And you don't need to feel bad about that, because you are the only person that gets to live with those choices. And you are the one who gets to decide if you like yourself and those choices that you have made, or if you look back and you're not proud of yourself. You are the only one. And in terms of education, I know it sucks, okay? But in 2 years from today, you can either be sitting at home doing what you're doing, or you can be finishing a program, you know? So just do it, because at the end of the day, you're gonna look back and be proud of the work that you put in. It's hard, and it's not the easy path, but it's so, so, so worth it when you're able to provide people in your community, people in your family, people that you love with opportunities that you didn't get. It is so worth it when you're able to be a person that you never imagined yourself as. It's so worth it. It's so hard, and it's so scary, and it's so intimidating, but it's not, the life that you're destined for is not the life that you have to live. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I would give to other youth in care.
Well, that's excellent advice.
Very inspiring.
And I guess just adding to that, was there a point for you at some point that was a bit of a turning point? And you said to yourself, okay, I got to go down this path. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was 12, my grandfather told me that. I did not listen then. It took me a while to get there. I don't
think any of us did at 12.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Whew, way over my head. But I was living in a group home, and I was constantly AWOLing. And not being there, when I AWOL'd, I would sleep on my friend's couch in the garage behind her house. And I would rather be there than in a group home, because I did not want to be there. I did not want to be that person. And then I don't know what happened, but there was a day where I realized the only way I'm not going to be this person forever, the only way I'm going to get my own apartment, the only way I'm going to be happy and satisfied is if I start making different choices. You know, sleeping on this couch is not fixing my problems, you know, and that's not to discredit also the amount of people, because I was ready, and I told the story at Gourmet Gardens of sitting in the back room at this group home actually and arguing with a staff member because she would not let me drop out of school. And I wanted to not have to go to the high school anymore. I wanted to go to the adult education center. And she argued with me and told me that I was not allowed to drop out of school and I had too much potential. And it was very, very annoying because she had no idea what I was going through. But those were the people, even though I didn't see it in the moment, that saved me. Because if I had done that, my path may have turned out very differently, you know? So I do want to take a minute to credit the village that I had that continually made me feel like I was worth something and that I was destined for more. But there most definitely was a moment in which I decided I was going to make different choices. And I didn't, again, like after that day, it's not like I've made perfect choices since then. Like there were also some moments. I had my first apartment. There's a lot of freedom that comes with that, a lot of choices you get to make, and a lot of the times the wrong ones are made. But, you know, it was learning. I was a kid, you know, so I'm not going to look back at that and say they were wrong because, again, like I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for those choices I made then. But thank God I had people around me that didn't allow those choices to get too out of hand. But I remember I came back to the group home after AWOLing and I told them I'm done AWOLing. And they all kind of looked at me and did not believe a single word I said. But 5 months later, when I was approved for independent living, they were all quite proud of me. And it was amazing having those people around me because they never said you couldn't, but they had those doubts.
And you proved that you were able to move forward with it.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Janine, first I just want to say, Kendall, you know, your voice is so important in this conversation, and your voice matters, you matter, and all the youth that we work with matter. And so good luck with your work around getting their feedback, because that is going to help us in the work that we do to help you and help other youth. So before we close, Janine, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
We are always on the hunt for affordable rental units. So if you have, you know, good quality rental units that you're looking to rent, please give us a shout.
Absolutely.
As well, if you're at all inspired by listening to, you know, Kendall's story and think I would love to like get connected with a CCSY youth and help mentor them, I encourage you to reach out to Safe Families Plus. They have, it's a great organization in our community that helps youth aging out of care. You can become a mentor to a CCSY youth. It's a friend, someone they can call. You can take them to a doctor's appointment. You can go for coffee. They can call you at 6 o'clock at night. What temperature do I cook the chicken? You know, so it's something that, you know, often is taken for granted, but that our youth, you know, the importance of having that person in their life. So I encourage you to reach out to Safe Families Plus if you're at all interested in helping to mentor a CCSY youth.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I add my thanks, Janine. I know you're a champion for this, and you will just continue to move forward to try to do great things for our youth, and thank you for your support that way. And Kendall, we look forward to hearing of how your journey continues, and really excited to have met you and have connected with you, especially over the last few months. And again, I think there's great things to come.